everyone, this is Neha Tulsyan from Tulsyan Creation. Welcome to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video, I have created this beautiful double interactive card using some products from Lawn Fawn. On the outside, I have created this pull tab mechanism, and inside I have created this shutter card mechanism. And let me show you how I did this. I started with stamping few of the images from different stamp sets on a accent opaque cardstock in 80 lbs using Lawn Fawn jet black ink. I used quite a few of stamp sets from Lawn Fawn, all of which is listed in the description box below. But the three main stamps that I used for making this card is Special Delivery stamp set, Special Delivery add-on stamp set, and the Dense Sweet Dense stamp set. Now I'm coloring all my images using Copic markers. I wanted to color my bird in two colors, so here I used some Y
All the
markers
markers
and
used
some
are
BG
listed on the
markers to
top
color
left
my
of the
bird.
screen.
For the wings of the bird, you can see that I'm coloring one of each wing that I have stamped. That's because I'm going to die cut this with the coordinating die that comes with the die set to create the interactive design for this card. I'm going to show that later in the video to make it more clear. The front of this card is inspired by the current Lawn Fanatics challenge, What's the Weather? So anything weather related goes in this challenge. Also, I used this stamp set special delivery because I wanted to use the interactive element of this stamp set and die. So with the scene, I showed that the delivery bird delivers almost everything and every day, rain or shine. And that's why even on a rainy or gloomy day, the houses are all in rainbow color, showing that the people in that neighborhood are happy because they know that their products will be delivered. I know I'm always happy to know that I'm getting my mail delivered, especially the crafty ones. And for the inside of my card, I extended the scene showing the inside of one of the houses where the house members are celebrating a birthday party and waiting for the cake to be delivered. Now, for the colors of the images, since I knew that I wanted to color all my houses in rainbow color, I tried to use the same rainbow color combination for coloring all my images. You can see that I have used a lot of images on this card, so there is a lot of coloring too. So if you don't want to watch the coloring, you can skip to 5 minutes and 20 seconds for the process video. Here are a few more images that I stamped off camera, and now I'm coloring the bears. Since all the bears are colored similarly, I'm just gonna share how I colored one of the bears. Today I decided to color my bears a little lighter than I usually do. I'm almost done coloring my bear here. Now I'll take my darker marker and add some dot details using the tip of the marker to the darker areas of the bear to add some texture to the bear. And I'll blend that by adding some dot details using the next medium marker. Finishing coloring of food images from the first sheet that I left in between. Since these images are so small, I used two marker per image to color these images. I just used a darker marker and a lighter marker. I did not blend the colors a lot because I wanted to have that contrast, but I did not have enough space to add a lot of blending. So just added the shadows with the darker color and filled the rest area with the lighter marker. For the rest of the images here that goes in the inside of my card, I tried to use the same colors that were out that I used to color the images for the outside of my card, trying to keep a balance all over. Once I'm done coloring, I'll go ahead and die cut all these images. And here you can see I'm using the dies that coordinates with these wings. And since these dies are long, you cannot cut both the wings together. So that's why I stamped and colored separately both sides of the wings. In the die set, you also get this die that cuts just the beak part of the birds so that you can tuck something under the beak of the birds. And this is how the wings look once die cut. Those holes in the wings will help us put together the interactive element. And this is how the beak looks once die cut. Now for my card base, I die cut this panel out of um, accent opaque 110-pound cardstock using the shutter card die from Lawn Fawn. And now I'm gonna ink blend the inside of this panel. I'm trying to create a floor and a wall for my inside scene. So I'm using some post-it tapes to mask the bottom of my panel while I can ink up the wall using fossilized amber distress ink. I'm using my mini blending tool to ink up the top part of this panel. I'm starting off of the panel, slowly working my way in. I'm using very light hands to avoid any harsh lines. Remember, these are distress inks and they are not as forgiving as distress oxide inks. But I really wanted to use the distress inks today because they give this nice and vibrant look that you don't get with distress oxide inks. I kept building my color at the bottom to get that nice yellow color at the bottom. And as I went up, I um, added less color and I liked that nice gradient that I got from dark yellow to almost light yellow to white color. Now the fun part, removing the post-it to reveal the color. I just love this part. Using the same post-it tapes to mask off the top part. Now I will clean my post-it tape using microfiber cloth to make sure I don't get ink on my fingers and also on the bottom part of the panel. For the bottom part, I'm using Hickory Smoke Distress ink, concentrating more color on the top where both the colors meet and lighter towards the bottom. And here is how the panel looks once all done. Off camera, I also die cut this panel for the shutter card mechanism using the shutter card add-on die from Lawn Fawn, and I'm inking it the same way as I did my base panel. I used the same post-it tapes as my guide to mask off the bottom part of this panel so I can match it up with my base panel. Repeating the same steps here, inking the top with fossilized amber and the bottom with hickory smoke distress inks. Once done inking, I'll spray both the panels with some water using my distress sprayer. Let the water sit for a few seconds and then blot it dry using a paper towel. I like that subtle texture that you get because of adding water to these distress backgrounds. And I'll let these panels dry before I move to next step. Once the panels are dry, I'll go ahead and assemble my shutter card mechanism. I'll start with scoring the two tabs on my base panel. Off camera, I have die cut these two pieces from the shutter card die using the sunflower cardstock from Lawn Fawn. The sunflower cardstock was a perfect match for my ink blending. Now for this fishtail tabs, the shutter card base die actually creates this marking on both sides to remove the guesswork. I don't know if you can see that on video, but it's there and I can see them really nicely. So now I'm going to use some strong double-sided tape and glue these fishtail tabs on my card base. And the best way to glue them is to line up the tabs with the marking and just close the lid on it. I'll repeat the same steps for the other side. Now adding adhesive to the top and bottom tabs of the base card. This is where the add-on panel gets glued. Lining up the add-on panel and gluing the top first. Once that's done, putting the fishtail tabs together one side on the top and one side at the bottom, and then carefully gluing the add-on panel to the bottom tab, making sure everything is lined and that the fishtail tabs are in place. And that's it. My shutter card mechanism is done. I was so proud of myself that I did this on the very first try. I know it's pretty easy, and Lawn Fawn has actually made it easy, like marked everything and provided all the die cuts. So there is no guesswork, there is no measurement involved, nothing. But still, somehow, um, interactive cards make me a little nervous. But I was so glad that it was just put together like a breeze. Here I'm gluing down all the images using some liquid glue to the inside of my card. For the inside scene, I decided to add all the food to the delivery box, showing as if the bears are actually taking out the food from the delivery box that they ordered. I'm stamping the sentiment special delivery on the delivery box from the special delivery add on stamp set. And I used an X-Acto knife to make a slit in the box to tuck my food in there. You get a die for this in the coordinating die set, but I just could not find that die, so I used my craft knife to make that slit. All my bear images were glued in place, and I did not know where to put this smaller one, so I decided to put him on the cake stand as if he's trying to take out the food from the box. Since rest of the bears were waiting for the cake to get delivered so that they can start their birthday party, our little bear got hungry and he started digging in the food. The bear on the left sits on the score line, so I'm making sure that the bear is glued nicely and that my card will open and close smoothly. Now the inside of my card is almost done. Let's work on the outside. For my outside panel, I started with inking up the background using Distress Oxide inks. I'm using an accent opaque 80 lbs cardstock, and I'm inking with Speckled Egg, Stormy Sky, Faded Jeans, and Black Soot Distress Oxide inks. I'm using my blending brushes to do all the blending here. I started with Speckled Egg, added the color to the bottom 1/4 of the panel, then adding Stormy Sky just above it, going back and forth between the colors to get a better blend. Next, adding Faded Jeans just above Stormy Sky and again going back and forth between the colors to blend both the colors. Once happy with the blend, I'll move on to next color. Using a little bit of post-it tape here to mask off my fingers so that I can hold my panel while inking it and not get any fingerprints. Lastly, adding black soot to the panel and blending it using Faded Jeans. I went back and forth between both the colors couple of times to get a good blend. I liked how these four colors look together. You could, if you want, not add black soot, but I really wanted to have that contrast of really light from Speckled Egg to really dark, stormy sky, but I was not getting that with just Faded Jeans, so I added a little bit of black soot. Pressing the black soot and Faded Jeans ink pads to my work surface so that I can add some splatter to the background. And this is how it looks once all done. I'll wait for it to dry before I move to the next step. Once my panel is all dried, I'll use the landscape rainy backdrop die from Lawn Fawn to die cut this panel. I'll admit I did not need to splatter this background because it's not showing as much, but I did not realize that until I die cut the panel. For my houses at the bottom, I die cut that using white cardstock from Village Border die from Lawn Fawn. And now I'm using Copic markers to color these houses in rainbow color. The full border will not fit in my card, so I'm coloring as much as needed. And I'll trim off the excess. For the windows and doors of the houses, I'm gonna glue down this yellow strip that I colored using Copic markers using some liquid glue. Once glued, I'll trim off the excess from all around. And this is how the house border looks. Now gluing the background panel to a black cardstock that measures 3.5 inches by 4 7/8 inches. That's the size of the shutter card when it's all closed. And now I'll add some foam tape to the back of the house border and glue that to the bottom of that black panel. But this is not how you should do it. I'm gonna do some die cutting for the next step. So you should first do the die cutting and then glue the house border. Because of the dimension of the foam tape, it was a little hard for me to do the die cutting. So just make sure you are first doing the die cutting and then gluing down the house border with foam tape. The village border die also comes with these tree dies that I die cut using white cardstock, and now I'm coloring it with Copic markers. And now I'll glue these down using a combination of liquid glue and foam tape. Once done gluing, trimming off the excess that's hanging off the panel. Now let's work on the front interactive mechanism. Here I'm die cutting this panel using the die from Waving Pull Tab Starter set from Lawn Fawn. This die also comes with this small stencil that you're supposed to line up to know the placement of this other die that comes with the special delivery die set. Once both the dies are in place, I'll remove the stencil and pass this through my die cutting machine. This is where I had a little bit of issue die cutting this panel because I already had the village border glued with foam tape. Had I glued it directly to my panel, then I would not have any issue. Next, I die cut this pull tab from the Waving Pull Tab die set using black cardstock twice. And now I'm gluing both of them together with some liquid glue. With mechanisms like this, where everything is dependent on a pull tab, it's gonna get pulled quite a lot. I like to add extra support by gluing two of the pull tabs together. Now putting both the wings and the pull tab together with a mini brad, making sure the X marked on the wings are both on the top. Now passing the wings from the behind of the panel through the slit made by the die. Next, I'll glue the stabilizer at the back of this mechanism. This stabilizes the pull tab and also acts as a stopper. Now let's see if it's working. And yes, it is. Next, I'm putting together my delivery box. I'm putting the cake, the ice cream, and a slice of cake in there. I also stamped the sentiment bird day on the delivery box using Lawn Fawn jet black ink. Gluing down the rope to the box for the bird to hold on to the box. Adding a dot of glue to the tip of the rope to glue it under the bird's beak. Lastly, adding some foam tape to adhere everything to the card panel. And this looks amazing. Now gluing this tab on the top of the mechanism for the recipient to know that it's a pull tab and it goes up and down. I die cut this in white, but later I'll change my mind and I'll remove this and adhere another one that is die cut in black cardstock. Here I'm trimming off this panel from both sides because I want to match this with another cardstock. It was a little difficult to trim off all these layers along with the foam tape, but I managed. This is where I changed my mind and added the black tab on the top of the mechanism and also added a yellow arrow. Next, I added foam tape at the back of this panel around the pull tab mechanism and matted it on a sunflower cardstock. Trimmed off the excess cardstock using my guillotine trimmer. Next, I trimmed off a piece of sunflower cardstock and glued it to the front right side of the shutter card. This just gives a neat look to the front of the card. Next, I'll glue the card front to the other side, to the left side of the shutter card. And this is how it looks once all done. I just love how this whole thing turned out. Now let's work on the sentiment. I have a black cardstock and a piece of vellum here. I have prepped both the surfaces using anti-static powder tool. And now I'm going to stamp the sentiment using clear ink. On vellum, the sentiment reads happy, and on the black cardstock, it reads happy birthday to you. Pouring white embossing powder on stamped sentiment, tapping off the excess powder, and now heat setting both the sentiments using my heat tool. Off camera, I have fussy cut both the sentiment using my scissors, gluing the vellum sentiment to the front of my card, adding glue carefully just behind the sentiment part so that no glue is seen through the vellum. Also gluing down the hat to our delivery bird here. Next, gluing the happy birthday to you sentiment to the inside of the card. To finish off the card, stamping some musical notes to the inside of the card using Lawn Fawn jet black ink. For finishing touches, adding some white gel pen details to all the images. And I almost forgot to add the party hats to the bears, so gluing those down. And that's it, my card is all done. A waving pull tab shutter birthday card. I had so much fun creating this card. I enjoyed so much. And it turned out so beautiful. I don't think I'm gonna give it to anyone. I think I'm gonna gift it to myself on my birthday. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts about this card. And see you next time. Until then, happy crafting!